The fluorescent lights of Seoul Presbyterian Hospital buzzed like dying insects at 2:47 a.m. In the pediatric wing's corridor, 3 security guards formed a semicircle around a woman in navy blue scrubs, her cleaning cart abandoned against the wall. Inside room 304, a child's scream split the silence. "No. Don't take her. She stays." The boy, 5 years old, hollow-eyed from chemotherapy, had his thin arms wrapped around the woman's waist. His foreline tangled as he pressed his face into her stomach, sobbing in a language she barely understood but felt in her bones. Dr. Shin blocked the doorway, clipboard clutched like a shield. Behind him, 2 nurses whispered in rapid Korean. The woman caught only fragments, suspicious. Alone with him. The chairman's son. She didn't move. Couldn't. The child's grip was the only thing keeping her standing. "Miss." Dr. Shin's English was practiced, cold. "You need to explain what you were doing in this room. At this hour. Alone." Amara Okafor met his eyes. Her voice came out steadier than she felt. "I was cleaning." He woke up crying. "I stayed until he calmed down. The cleaning schedule doesn't include patient rooms after midnight." He was scared. "That's not your responsibility." The boy, Miho, she'd learned his name from the chart on the door, pressed closer. His small hand found hers and squeezed. She squeezed back, her dark fingers gentle against his pale, bruised knuckles. One of the nurses spoke urgently in Korean. Dr. Shin's expression hardened. "Security has been reviewing footage," he said. "You've been entering this room for 3 nights. Off schedule. Without authorization." He paused, letting the implication hang. "The boy's father arrives in 20 minutes. I need you to step away from the child now." Amara's pulse hammered in her ears. She'd done nothing wrong. Nothing except show up when a terrified child needed someone, anyone, to sit with him in the dark. "I'm not leaving him alone," she said quietly. The security guards moved closer. Miho screamed again, his voice raw, "When Daddy comes, I'll tell him." But they didn't wait for Daddy. "If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother once told me stories like this wouldn't matter, that I wouldn't even reach 1,000 subscribers. She said, who's going to care about a girl telling stories about people nobody sees? But I believe stories about dignity, love, and unseen people deserve to be heard. I believe this woman's story, Amara's story, matters. If this has already touched you, even a little, I need you to subscribe and stay with me. Not just for me, but for every person who's ever been invisible. For everyone who's been accused before being heard. Click that button. Be part of proving that these stories have power. Because what happens next? You won't believe it. 12 hours earlier, Amara had clocked in at 6 p.m. like always, silent, efficient, invisible. She'd been cleaning Seoul Presbyterian for 8 months. Night shift. 3rd floor. Pediatric oncology. Nobody learned her name. They didn't need to. She was the woman who emptied the trash, mopped the floors, wiped down the nurses' station when they went on break. She wore her hair in a loose curly afro that framed her face like a crown, kept her head down, sent money home every month to her younger sister in Lagos. Korea wasn't the dream she'd imagined. It was cold. Lonely. The language felt like glass in her mouth, sharp, impossible to hold. But the pay was 3 times what she'd made in Nigeria, and her sister needed university fees. So Amara cleaned. She learned to read the hospital by sound. The rhythm of monitors. The shuffle of night nurses. The silence that meant someone had died. And the crying, especially the crying of children who woke up alone, medicated and afraid, calling for parents who'd gone home to sleep. Room 304 had been crying for 3 nights. The first night, Amara had paused outside the door, mop in hand, listening to the boy sob in Korean. She shouldn't have gone in. It wasn't her job. But she'd thought of her sister, small and scared after their mother died, and she'd pushed the door open. The boy had looked at her with eyes too old for his face. She'd sat in the chair beside his bed. Didn't speak, what could she say? But she'd hummed. Low and soft. An old Yoruba lullaby her mother used to sing. Miho had stopped crying. Reached for her hand. Held on. The second night, she'd brought him a small origami crane she'd learned to fold from a YouTube video. His face had lit up. The third night, tonight, she'd found him screaming, tangled in his sheets, nurse call button blinking unanswered. She'd cleaned his face with a damp cloth, whispered soothing nonsense in English he didn't understand, and stayed. That's when Dr. Shin walked in. That's when everything shattered. The elevator chimed. Everyone froze. Footsteps echoed down the corridor, sharp, deliberate, expensive. The kind of footsteps that silenced entire rooms. Chairman Kang Ji-hoon didn't walk. He arrived. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black suit despite the hour. His face was carved from marble, sharp jaw, cold eyes, the kind of beauty that felt like a warning. Behind him, an assistant, 2 bodyguards, and the hospital director, half-dressed and apologetic. Dr. Shin bowed so low his head nearly touched his clipboard. Chairman Kang, we were just. Where's my son? His voice was granite. Not loud. Didn't need to be. The doctor gestured toward room 304. Kang Ji-hoon's gaze swept the scene, security guards, nervous nurses, his son clinging to a woman in cleaning scrubs, and something flickered behind his eyes. He stepped into the room. Miho released Amara instantly and threw himself at his father, sobbing in Korean. Kang caught him, his expression cracking for just a moment before resetting to stone. They tried to take her away. She didn't do anything bad, she helped me. Miho. Enough. His father's tone was gentle but firm. He looked at Amara for the first time. She stood, hands clasped in front of her, spine straight. If they were going to fire her, or worse, she wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her crumble. Sir, Dr. Shin began, we found this woman alone with your son multiple times. Unauthorized. We felt it was our duty to terrify a 5-year-old child? Kang's voice dropped 10 degrees. Dr. Shin paled. We were protecting him. Kang Ji-hoon set Miho down gently, smoothed his son's hair, and turned to face Amara. His eyes were unreadable. Calculating. She felt pinned under a microscope. What is your name? Amara Okafor. Why were you in this room? He was crying. I stayed with him. That's not your job. No, sir. It's not. Silence. Kang studied her for a long moment. Then he looked at his son, at the origami crane clutched in Miho's hand, at the way the boy kept glancing back at her like she was a lifeline. Everyone out, Kang said quietly. Except you. He pointed at Amara. The room emptied in seconds. The door clicked shut. Amara stood alone with the most powerful man in the hospital, his sick son between them, and no idea if she'd just been saved or trapped. The silence in room 304 pressed against Amara's chest like a weight. Kang Ji-hoon stood between her and the door, his presence filling the small space. Miho had climbed back into bed, clutching the origami crane, his eyes darting between his father and the woman who'd sat with him in the dark. Tell me exactly what happened, Kang said. Not a request. A command. Amara's mouth went dry. She chose her words carefully. 3 nights ago, I heard crying while I was cleaning the corridor. I came in. Your son was alone and frightened. I stayed until he fell asleep. Why? The question caught her off guard. Sir? Why did you stay? You could have called a nurse. Amara glanced at Miho, then back at the chairman. I did. Twice. No one came. She paused. And I have a younger sister. When she was scared at night, she needed someone. Not just anyone. Someone who would stay. Something flickered across Kang's face, too quick to read. You returned the next night. Yes. And tonight. Yes. Without authorization. Knowing it could cost you your job. Amara lifted her chin slightly. He's 5 years old. He's sick. He was alone. I didn't think about my job. Kang's jaw tightened. Perhaps you should have. A knock interrupted them. The hospital director entered, bowing so deeply his glasses nearly fell off. Chairman Kong, I must apologize for this incident. We had no idea this employee was breaching protocol. She will be terminated immediately, and we'll conduct a full investigation to ensure. Did anyone file a complaint about her? Kang's voice was ice. No, but the irregularity. Did my son report feeling unsafe? The director hesitated. Well, no, but given the circumstances, we felt it was prudent to. To terrorize a child in the middle of the night? To surround him with security guards? To physically remove someone he was clinging to? Kong turned, and the director actually stepped back. Tell me, Director Yoon, what exactly were you protecting him from? Chairman, we couldn't know her intentions. Her intentions? Kang's voice dropped dangerously low. She comforted a crying child. She showed up when your nursing staff didn't. And your first instinct was to treat her like a criminal. Director Yoon's face flushed. We were simply being cautious. Given her background, and the fact that she's not Korean, we thought. Careful. The single word landed like a blade. The director's mouth snapped shut. Kong turned back to Amara. You're from Nigeria? Yes, sir. Lagos. How long have you worked here? 8 months. Any complaints on your record? No, sir. Disciplinary issues? No, sir. Kong pulled out his phone, made a call. Spoke rapid Korean. Hung up. 2 minutes later, his assistant entered with a tablet. He scrolled in silence. Amara's heart hammered. What was he looking at? Her work record? Immigration status? Security footage? Finally, he looked up. According to this, you have perfect attendance. Your supervisor noted you're efficient and thorough. You've never called in sick. Never been late. He paused. You're also paid 30% less than the Korean cleaners doing the same job. Director Yoon's face went white. Amara blinked. She hadn't known that. She'd been grateful just to have the work. Get out, Kong said quietly. Chairman, I. Get. Out. The director fled. The door closed. The three of them were alone again. Miho spoke softly in Korean. Kong answered, his voice gentler. Then he turned to Amara. My son says you sing to him. Amara nodded. I didn't think he'd mind. It helped him sleep. What do you sing? A lullaby. From home. My mother used to, she stopped herself. He didn't need her life story. But Kong was watching her with an intensity that felt like being seen for the first time in months. Not as a cleaner. Not as invisible. As a person. He also says you made him that. Kong gestured to the paper crane. I'm not very good at origami, Amara admitted. I learned from a video. It's supposed to be good luck. Do you know what he told me just now? Amara shook her head. He said, she has magic hands, Appa. When she touches my head, the scary dreams go away. Kang's voice cracked almost imperceptibly. He hasn't let anyone touch him in weeks. Not the nurses. Not the doctors. He screams when they try to check his for. Amara looked at Miho. The boy was watching them, hugging his crane. He's scared, she said softly. Everything hurts. Everyone who touches him causes pain. He doesn't know who's safe. But he trusted you. I don't know why. I do. Kong moved closer, not threatening, but deliberate. You didn't treat him like he was dying. You treated him like he was a child who needed comfort. His eyes held hers. When was the last time someone did that for you? The question landed like a punch. Amara's throat tightened. She thought of 8 months of silence. Of eating alone in her tiny apartment. Of riding the subway where people shifted away from her. Of being invisible except when she was suspected. I should go, she whispered. No. Kang's voice was firm. Miho, do you want her to stay? The boy nodded frantically, reaching out his small hand. Amara looked at that hand, bruised, trembling, hopeful. She took it. Kong Ji-hoon watched them for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He pulled up a second chair. And sat down. They sat in silence, the three of them, in a hospital room at 3 a.m. A billionaire CEO. A Nigerian cleaner. A dying child. The world outside had rules about people like them. About who belonged where. About who was allowed to touch whom. About invisible lines that weren't supposed to be crossed. But inside room 304, those rules didn't exist. Miho fell asleep holding Amara's hand, his breathing soft and even. Kong didn't move. Didn't check his phone. Didn't leave. He just watched his son sleep peacefully for the first time in weeks. And when Amara started to pull her hand away carefully, Kang's voice stopped her. Stay. Please. It wasn't a command this time. It was a request. From a father who'd been watching his child suffer alone. What would you do? Would you stay? Or would you protect yourself and walk away? Drop a comment, I want to know. At 4:17 a.m., Kong finally spoke. His mother left when he was diagnosed. His voice was flat, emotionless. She said she couldn't watch him die. She's in Paris. Hasn't called in 3 months. Amara said nothing. What could she say? I've hired the best doctors. The best treatment. I've thrown money at this disease like it's something I can buy my way out of. He laughed bitterly. But I can't make him stop being afraid. I can't make him sleep. I can't. His voice broke. I can't be enough. You're here, Amara said quietly. That's not nothing. I'm here now. But I wasn't here when he woke up screaming. I wasn't here when he needed someone. Kong looked at her. You were. I was just cleaning. No. His gaze was fierce. You were showing up. That's not the same thing. The words hung between them. Kong stood abruptly, pulled out his phone, made another call. Sharp Korean. Authoritative. He hung up and turned to her. As of this moment, you're reassigned. You'll work day shift. Pediatric floor. Your pay is doubled. You'll report directly to me. Amara stared. I don't understand. My son trusts you. I don't know why, but he does. And right now, that's worth more than any medical degree. He paused. Unless you want to refuse? No. No, I don't refuse. But sir, I'm not a nurse. I don't have training. You don't need training to sit with a scared child. You just need to care enough to show up. His eyes held hers. Can you do that? Amara thought of her sister. Of her mother's voice. Of 8 months of being invisible. Of a little boy who'd reached for her in the dark. Yes, she said. I can do that. Kong nodded once. Then he did something that made her breath catch. He bowed. Slightly. Respectfully. Thank you, he said. For seeing my son when everyone else just saw a patient. But as he straightened, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. His entire expression changed, hardened into something cold and dangerous. We have a problem, he said quietly. Someone recorded tonight. The security footage. It's already been sent to the board. Amara's blood went cold. What does that mean? Kang's jaw clenched. It means they're going to use you to destroy me. By 9 a.m., Amara's face was on every screen in the executive boardroom. She didn't know this yet. She was in the hospital cafeteria, hands wrapped around a cup of coffee she couldn't afford to waste, trying to process what had happened in the last 6 hours. Reassigned. Pay doubled. Report directly to the chairman. It felt like a dream. The kind that evaporates the moment you wake up. Her phone buzzed. A message from another cleaner, Minji, one of the few who'd ever spoken to her. Are you okay? People are saying things. Be careful. Amara's stomach dropped. She typed back, what things? 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. That you were alone with the chairman's son. That you manipulated him. That you're... I don't know how to say it in English. A gold digger? Someone looking for money? The coffee turned to acid in her mouth. 7 floors above, Kang Ji-hoon stood at the head of a table surrounded by 12 board members, his father's oldest allies, men who'd built empires on hierarchy and tradition. The screen behind him showed grainy security footage, Amara entering Miho's room. Sitting beside his bed. The timestamp read 11:47 p.m. This is unacceptable, board member Huang said, his jowls quivering with indignation. A foreign worker. Unsupervised access to your son. The liability alone. She comforted a frightened child, Kang said coldly. She violated protocol. She could have had any intention. She had one intention, kindness. Something this hospital apparently rations like morphine. Chairman Kang. Director Yoon leaned forward, his earlier terror replaced with calculated concern. We understand you're grateful. But surely you see how this looks. A young woman. Alone with the heir to your fortune. Multiple nights. If this gets out, if the media spins this into something inappropriate. There is nothing inappropriate. The optics. I don't care about optics. Then you should. The voice came from the end of the table. Kang's aunt, Vice Chairwoman Kang Seo-yeon, impeccably dressed, ruthlessly intelligent. Because I promise you, Ji-hoon, your competitors do. Your shareholders do. And if they think for 1 second that you've allowed someone with access to Miho, to your vulnerability, they will use it. Kang's hands curled into fists beneath the table. What are you suggesting? Terminate her. Quietly. Generously, even. Give her 6 months severance and send her home. Protect your son. Protect this company. No. Ji-hoon. I said no. The meeting ended badly. Kang returned to his office, slammed the door, and stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul. The city sprawled beneath him, millions of people, thousands of buildings, entire lives contained in concrete and glass. He controlled so much of it. Hospitals. Real estate. Technology. Money that moved markets. But he couldn't control the fear in his son's eyes. Couldn't control the cancer eating through Miho's small body. Couldn't control the fact that a woman he'd met 6 hours ago had done more for his child than all his power ever could. His phone rang. His ex-wife. He let it go to voicemail. She'd call about money. She always did. Never about Miho. Not once since she'd left had she asked how their son was sleeping, if he was eating, if he was scared. But a stranger had asked. A woman paid poverty wages to clean floors had cared enough to stay. There was a knock. His assistant entered with another tablet. Sir, you need to see this. It was a memo. Drafted by legal. Approved by 3 board members. Recommendation for immediate termination, employee number 4721, Amara Okafor. Grounds, protocol violation, unauthorized patient contact, potential liability. Effective immediately. They're forcing your hand, his assistant said quietly. If you don't sign it, they'll claim you're emotionally compromised. They'll question your fitness to lead. Kong stared at the document. All he had to do was sign. Protect himself. Protect the company. Send her away with enough money to forget Seoul ever happened. It was the logical choice. The safe choice. He thought of Miho's face when they'd tried to pull Amara away. The way his son had screamed, "She stays." The most fight Miho had shown since the diagnosis. He thought of Amara's eyes when she'd said, he was crying. I stayed. Not for money. Not for recognition. Just because a child needed someone. Kong picked up his pen. His assistant held her breath. He drew a single line through the entire memo. Wrote 2 words, denied. KJH. Deliver this to the board, he said quietly. And tell them if they want to remove her, they'll have to remove me first. By that afternoon, Amara understood what war felt like. She'd been escorted to a private locker room, told to change out of her cleaning uniform, given new scrubs in pediatric blue. A badge with her name, Amara Okafor, patient care assistant. It felt legitimate. Official. It lasted 4 hours. The first nurse who saw her stopped mid-step, eyes widening. Whispered to another nurse. That nurse told a doctor. The doctor called someone in administration. Within an hour, every staff member on the 3rd floor knew who she was. The cleaner who'd been alone with the chairman's son. The foreign woman who'd somehow gotten reassigned. The outsider who'd stepped out of her place. They didn't confront her directly. They didn't have to. Silence was its own weapon. When she entered the break room, conversation stopped. When she tried to ask a question, nurses pretended not to hear. When she sat down, people stood up and left. Minji found her in the supply closet, restocking bandages with shaking hands. Amara, you need to leave, Minji whispered urgently. Director Yoon is telling people you're a seductress. That you're using the chairman's son to get close to his money. Security is already watching you differently. I didn't do anything wrong. It doesn't matter. You're black. You're poor. You're foreign. They'll make it matter. Minji's eyes were desperate. My cousin works in HR. She says they're building a case. Looking for any mistake, any reason to get rid of you that doesn't look like discrimination. The chairman reassigned me himself. The chairman is 1 man. The board is 12. His aunt is a shark. They're saying he's not thinking clearly because of his son, that you've manipulated the situation. Minji grabbed her hand. Please. Take severance if they offer it and go. Before this destroys you. Amara pulled her hand back gently. I promised Miho I'd stay. He's 5 years old. He'll forget you. Maybe. Amara's voice was steady. But I won't forget him. At 6 p.m., Amara was called to room 304. She expected Miho. Maybe Kong. She didn't expect the woman waiting inside. Tall. Elegant. Wearing a designer suit that cost more than Amara's yearly rent. Hair pulled back in a perfect chignon. Eyes that could dissect a balance sheet, or a person, in seconds. Vice Chairwoman Kang Seo-yeon. She stood near the window, backlit by the setting sun, and gestured to a chair. Sit. Amara remained standing. I'm here to see Miho. My nephew is in physical therapy. We have 15 minutes. Sit. It wasn't a request. Amara sat. Seo-yeon studied her like a specimen under glass. I've reviewed your file. Lagos. Catholic school. 2 years of university before you dropped out. You came to Korea on a work visa 8 months ago. You send 70% of your salary home. You live in Guro district in a 15 square meter apartment. You have no friends. No social media. No life. She paused. You're invisible. If you're trying to insult me, I'm trying to understand you. Seo Yan moved closer. What I understand is this: you're kind. Genuine. Exactly the type of person my nephew would trust. Also exactly the type of person this family will destroy the moment you become inconvenient. Amara's jaw tightened. Is that a threat? It's a fact. Seo Yan's expression didn't change. My nephew has cancer. He's 5. The survival rate is 60%. If he dies, her voice caught for the briefest moment, Ji-hoon will break. Completely. And this company, which employs 40,000 people, will collapse without him. What does that have to do with me? Everything. Because right now, you're the only person keeping Miho stable enough to endure treatment. The only person he trusts. Seo Yan's eyes were fierce. Which means you have power in this situation. Power over my nephew's health. Power over my family's future. I don't want power. Everyone wants power, Miss Okafor. The question is whether you'll use it wisely. Seo Yan pulled an envelope from her jacket. Set it on the table between them. Inside is a contract. You continue as Miho's companion. Salary, 200 million Korean wons per year. Housing provided. Legal protection. In exchange, you sign an NDA. You never speak to press. You never claim relationship to this family beyond employee. And when Miho no longer needs you, whether because he recovers or because he... She stopped. You walk away. Quietly. Amara stared at the envelope. 200 million Korean wons. That was, her mind couldn't even calculate it. Her sister's university. Her mother's debts. A future she'd never imagined. What if I refuse? Seo Yan smiled. It didn't reach her eyes. Then the board will vote tomorrow to terminate you for gross misconduct. Security footage will be edited to look damning. You'll be deported within a week. And Miho will wake up crying, wondering why another person he trusted disappeared. The door opened. Kang Ji-hoon stood in the doorway. He looked between his aunt and Amara. His expression was unreadable. What's going on here? Seo Yan straightened. Just offering Miss Okafor a choice. Kang's eyes dropped to the envelope on the table. His face went cold. What did you offer her? What she deserves. Security. Clarity. Protection. You mean control. He moved into the room, his presence suddenly dominating. You want to buy her silence. Make sure she stays in her place. I want to protect this family. By treating her like a transaction? His voice was razor sharp. He turned to Amara. Did you sign it? No. Good. He picked up the envelope. Tore it in half. She's not signing anything. Seo Yan's composure finally cracked. Ji-hoon, you're being reckless. I'm being human. He faced his aunt fully. You want to protect this family? Then stop treating people like assets. Stop calculating every relationship like a risk assessment. My son is dying, and the only person who's made him feel safe is standing right here, and you want to trap her in a contract? I want to protect her. You want to control her. There's a difference. Silence. Seo Yan's eyes were hard. The board votes tomorrow. You can't stop it. Watch me. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. You're choosing her over the company. I hope you understand what that means. I'm choosing my son. If the company can't understand that, then I'm running the wrong company. The door closed. Kang and Amara stood alone in the empty room. He turned to her. I'm sorry. For all of this. You shouldn't have to. Why are you doing this? Amara's voice shook. You don't know me. You don't owe me anything. Why are you risking everything for someone like me? Someone like you? Kang stepped closer. You mean someone who showed up? Someone who cared. Someone who saw my son as a person, not a headline? I'm nobody. You're the person my son asked for when he was scared. His voice dropped. Do you have any idea how rare that is? How much that matters? Amara's breath caught. The board votes tomorrow, Kong said quietly. They'll try to force me to let you go. I'm going to fight them. But if I lose, if they remove you, I need to know something first. What? If you had the choice, really had the choice, no contracts, no money, no pressure, would you stay? Would you keep showing up for him? Amara thought of Miho's hand in hers. His smile when she brought him the paper crane. The way he'd stopped screaming when she sang. Yes, she whispered. I'd stay. Something shifted in Kang's expression. Something that looked almost like hope. Then that's all I need to know. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it. His face darkened. What is it? Someone leaked the story to the press. It's everywhere. Billionaire's dying son and the foreign cleaner. He looked at her, and there was something in his eyes that made her chest tighten. Tomorrow morning, your name is going to be on every news site in Seoul. Your face will be everywhere. They're going to tear you apart. What do I do? Kong took a breath. You stand next to me. In front of cameras. In front of the board. In front of everyone. They'll destroy us both. Probably. He met her eyes. But they won't destroy my son. And that's all that matters. Outside the window, Seoul's lights began to flicker on, a city that was about to wake up to a story about a woman who'd crossed invisible lines. A woman who'd been invisible her whole life. Until she wasn't. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. Amara didn't sleep. She sat in her tiny apartment in Guro district, staring at her phone as notifications exploded across the screen. News articles. Social media posts. Her face, grainy security footage, on every major Korean news site. The headlines were brutal. Foreign worker infiltrates Chaebol family through sick child. Hospital cleaners calculated compassion, inside story. Kong Corporation airs mysterious caretaker, who is she really? The comments were worse. She's using a dying child to get rich. Disgusting. Why is a black woman even working in our hospital? Chairman Kong must be desperate to trust someone like her with his son. Someone like her. At 5 a.m., her sister called from Lagos, panicked. Amara, your face is on BBC Africa. What's happening? Are you safe? I don't know, Amara whispered. I don't know anymore. At 9:47 a.m., Amara stood backstage in the hospital's media room, wearing the same blue scrubs, her curly afro framing her face. She'd refused the stylist they'd offered. Refused the talking points. If she was going to do this, she'd do it as herself. Kong Ji-hoon stood beside her in a dark suit, his expression carved from stone. He hadn't looked at her since she'd arrived. She didn't know if that was strategic or if he was regretting everything. You can still leave, he said quietly, eyes forward. I can say this was my decision. Protect you from what's coming. I made a promise to Miho. Miho would understand. Would you? He finally looked at her. Really looked. And something in his eyes made her breath catch. No, he said softly. I wouldn't. The door opened. His assistant gestured. 2 minutes. They walked into a room filled with cameras, reporters, flashing lights. The noise was deafening. Amara's hands trembled. Kong moved closer, not touching, but present. A silent anchor. He stepped to the podium. The room fell silent. 3 weeks ago, my 5-year-old son was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. His voice was steady, but Amara could hear the fracture beneath it. The survival rate is 60%. Every night, I watch him fight for his life. Every morning, I wonder if I'll lose him. Reporters leaned forward, cameras clicking. 2 weeks ago, he stopped sleeping. Stopped eating. He was terrified of everyone who touched him because everyone who touched him caused pain. The nurses. The doctors. Me. Kang's voice cracked. I'm his father, and he was afraid of me. Silence. Then a cleaner, Miss Amara Okafor, heard him crying. She sat with him. She didn't have medical training. She didn't have authority. She just had kindness. And for the first time in weeks, my son felt safe. He gestured to Amara. She stepped forward, heart hammering. Last night, hospital security treated her like a criminal for showing compassion. The board tried to force me to terminate her for caring about a child. And this morning, the media is calling her a manipulator, a gold digger, an opportunist. Kang's eyes swept the room. So let me be absolutely clear, Miss Okafor has asked for nothing. No money. No favors. No recognition. She showed up because a child was scared. That's it. A reporter shouted, Chairman Kang, isn't it inappropriate for a cleaner to have unsupervised access to your son? What's inappropriate, Kang said coldly, is a system where kindness is suspicious. Where showing up for a suffering child is treated as a crime. Where we've forgotten that healthcare isn't just medicine, it's humanity. Another reporter, Miss Okafor, what do you say to people who think you're exploiting this situation? Amara's throat was dry. Every camera turned to her. Millions of people watching. Judging. She thought of Miho's hand in hers. His whisper, stay. I say. Her voice shook. She steadied it. I say that I'm just a person who couldn't walk past a crying child. I don't want money. I don't want fame. I just want. Her eyes filled. I just want him to be okay. The room erupted with questions. But Kang held up a hand. One more thing. As of today, I'm implementing a new policy across all Kang Corporation hospitals. Every staff member, from doctors to cleaners, will be trained in compassionate care. Because titles don't determine humanity. And this woman, who you've all judged, taught me something I should have known all along. He looked at Amara. That showing up matters more than status. That kindness isn't weakness. And that sometimes the most important person in the room is the one everyone else ignores. He stepped back from the podium. The room exploded. 3 days later, everything changed. The story went viral, not the way the board had feared, but in a way none of them had predicted. Social media erupted with support. International news picked it up. Donations poured into pediatric cancer research. Parents shared stories of hospital staff who'd shown unexpected kindness. And the backlash against the hospital board was swift and brutal. By the end of the week, Director Yoon had resigned. 3 board members had stepped down. Vice Chairwoman Seo Yen issued a public apology, genuine, for once, and announced a hospital-wide review of protocols. But Amara didn't care about any of that. She cared about the moment she walked into room 304 and saw Miho sitting up in bed, eyes bright, a real smile on his face. Amara. He reached for her, and she sat beside him, taking his small hand. Hey, little fighter. How are you feeling? Better. The doctor said the medicine is working. Appa said. He switched to Korean, too excited to find the English words. Kang, standing by the window, translated quietly. He said you're magic. That you scared the sickness away. Amara's eyes burned. No magic. Just medicine. And you being so strong. And you, Miho insisted. He held up something, another origami crane, this one folded more carefully than the first. I made this. For you. Because you stayed. Amara took it, hands trembling. It's perfect. Appa helped, Miho admitted. Then, conspiratorially, he's not very good at folding. Kang laughed, a real laugh, the first Amara had heard from him. He's not wrong. For a moment, they were just 3 people in a hospital room. Not a CEO and a cleaner and a patient. Just a father, a child, and the woman who'd shown up when it mattered. Later, after Miho fell asleep, Kong walked Amara to the elevator. "The board approved your permanent position," he said. "Patient care specialist. Pediatric oncology. Full benefits. You'll work with families whose children are." He couldn't finish. Scared, Amara finished gently. "I'll work with families whose children are scared." "Yes." They stood in silence. "Why did you really fight for me?" Amara asked. "It wasn't just about Miho." Kong was quiet for a long moment. "Do you know what I saw when I walked into that room the first night? An unauthorized cleaner breaking protocol?" "No." His eyes met hers. "I saw someone doing what I should have been doing. Someone brave enough to show up when it was dangerous. Someone who cared more about a child's fear than her own safety." He paused. "I saw someone I wanted to be more like." Amara's breath caught. "I'm not special." "You're wrong." His voice was low, intense. "You're the most remarkable person I've ever met. And I—" He stopped himself. "Thank you. For everything." The elevator dinged. Amara stepped inside, turned. Kong was watching her with an expression that made her heart race, something more than gratitude, more than respect. Something that felt like the beginning of something neither of them had planned. The doors began to close. His hand shot out, stopping them. "Have dinner with me," he said. "Not as an employee. Not as Miho's caretaker. Just, as you." Amara stared at him. "That's a bad idea." "Probably. People will talk. They already are. Your aunt will have another contract drawn up. I'll tear that one up too. I'm a cleaner from Lagos. I'm a father who's tired of pretending titles matter more than people." He stepped closer. "I'm a man who's watched you show more courage in 3 days than I've shown in 3 years. And I'm asking, not as Chairman Kong, just as Ji-hoon, if you'd have dinner with me." Amara's heart hammered. This was insane. Crossing every line. Inviting more judgment, more scrutiny, more pain. But she thought of Miho's hand in hers. Of standing at that press conference. Of deciding that showing up mattered more than staying safe. "One condition," she said. "What?" "No fancy restaurant. No reporters. No performance." "What do you want?" "Street food. Somewhere quiet. Where we can just be." Kong smiled, a real smile that transformed his entire face. "I know a place." They met in Gwangjang Market at sunset. Kong wore jeans and a sweater, no suit, no entourage. He looked younger. Almost nervous. They ate tteokbokki and mandu, sitting on plastic stools, surrounded by locals who didn't recognize either of them. For 2 hours, they talked. Not about hospitals or boards or illness. About life. Lagos and Seoul. Dreams deferred and hope still breathing. About what it felt like to be invisible and what it cost to be seen. "I never thanked you properly," Kong said quietly. "For that first night. When you stayed with him. You're thanking me now." "No. I mean." He reached across the small table, hesitated, then took her hand. "I mean, thank you for reminding me that love isn't just protection. It's presence. Showing up even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard." Amara's eyes burned. "Your son is lucky to have you. I'm lucky you found him first." They sat in comfortable silence as the market buzzed around them. "What happens now?" Amara asked. "I don't know," Kong admitted. "The board will push back. Your life will never be private again. This," he gestured between them, "will be complicated. Is it worth it?" He squeezed her hand gently. "That's not for me to decide. That's your choice. Amara looked at their joined hands, his pale, hers dark, both human. She thought of 8 months of invisibility. Of being told she didn't matter. Of believing it. And she thought of a little boy who'd reached for her in the dark and changed everything. "I choose to stay," she said softly. "Not because of you. Not because of the job. But because..." She met his eyes. "Because I'm tired of being invisible. And maybe it's time I believed I deserved to be seen." 6 months later, Miho's cancer went into remission. The doctors called it a miracle. Kong called it medicine and his son's incredible strength. But Miho insisted it was Amara's magic hands. She still worked at the hospital, pediatric oncology, just as planned. But now other families requested her specifically. The woman who'd sit with scared children. Who'd sing lullabies in Yoruba. Who'd fold paper cranes and stay until the nightmares passed. And sometimes, after her shift ended, she'd meet Ji-hoon in quiet places. No cameras. No headlines. Just 2 people learning what it meant to be seen. Really seen. They didn't know what the future held. If love could survive scrutiny. If a cleaner from Lagos and a billionaire CEO could build something real. But they knew this, showing up mattered. Kindness was revolutionary. And sometimes the most important choice wasn't the safe one, it was the human one. If this story touched you, if it made you think about the people you walk past every day, the ones we call invisible, do something for me. Share it. Not for me. For every person who's been told they don't matter. For everyone who's shown up when it was hard. For everyone still waiting to be seen. Subscribe if you believe these stories deserve space. Comment if you've ever been invisible, or if you've finally been seen. Comment part 2 if you love this story. Because this is just the beginning.